In a planet known as the Mother World, the royal bloodline ruled for thousands of years, but eventually their lust for power caused them to consume everything in their world. They decided to send their armies to conquer other planets and expand their empire until one day the king and queen were assassinated. The conquered planets wanted to use that chance to start a revolution, so Senator Balisarius stepped up and declared himself the new regent. Then he sent out his most brutal soldiers to crush all rebels without mercy. On a planet called Velt, a small settlement of farmers is going through their daily chores when suddenly they see an Empire ship in the sky. Cora is a war orphan and immediately recognizes it, so she rushes to ring the town's bell to warn everyone. Village leader Sindri gathers the locals to discuss how to proceed, and farmer Gunnar thinks they should welcome the soldiers because they'll buy their grain at triple the price they offer in the city. Cora immediately disagrees, explaining that the Empire just takes everything they need by force and only leaves destruction behind. An argument ensues, but before they can reach a conclusion, the Empire ships land near the village. Admiral Noble meets Sindri with a hug and explains that they're looking for a rebel group led by the Bloodaxe siblings, but his army is in need of food. Sindri lies and tells him their soil doesn't produce much, so the village only has enough to barely feed themselves. Noble doesn't believe him and points out everyone looks healthy and well fed, so Gunnar cuts in with an explanation. He tries telling the Admiral that Sindri had only been trying to save food for winter to protect the village, but he's willing to sell some to Noble at a good price. Furious over being tricked, Noble grabs his cane and proceeds to beat Sindri up to death. When Sindri's wife tries to approach him, a guard uses a glowing blade to kill her too. Then Noble announces he'll be back in 10 weeks to gather all the harvest, not caring if there's anything left for the villagers. Afterward, Noble and the ships leave, but a small group of soldiers led by Faunus stay to keep an eye on things. While some soldiers kick out the villagers from the building they want to claim, Private Aris activates Jimmy, a robot that used to serve the king. After the royals were killed, all the robots put down their weapons and refuse to fight, so the few that are left help around with menial tasks. As Jimmy helps the soldiers carry their things, Marcus decides to test the rumors and starts shooting at the robot, who falls to the ground and never defends himself. Aris cuts in to stop Marcus and almost gets killed, but Faunus stops them both and sends them to work. He also makes sure Jimmy isn't malfunctioning and sends him to wash the mud off. At the river, Jimmy is washing his face and is approached by Sam, who befriends the robot and listens to his story. Jimmy explains that Sam reminds him of the Empire princess, who was killed together with her parents by the traitors. Sam tells him that the princess lives in him and gifts Jimmy a flower crown, which activates something within him. Meanwhile, in the town hall, the villagers discuss what to do next and conclude they should work hard to prove their harvest is valuable. That way the Empire won't kill them so they can keep producing food. Frustrated because nobody will hear her warnings, Cora starts packing her things to leave. She's caught red-handed by Hagen, the man who found her when her ship crashed on this planet 2 years ago. Hagen thinks Cora should team up with the rebels and protect the village, but Cora refuses, saying that they have no chance of winning, so it would only be a massacre. In the evening, Marcus and 2 other soldiers kidnap Sam so that the whole squad can use her. Cora hears her screams, but she reminds herself not to get involved. Aris comes in Sam's defense and manages to punch a few men, but there are too many of them and they immediately overpower him. Soon Faunus arrives and calls dibs on Sam, but he's interrupted by Cora, who has brought an axe. Faunus sends his men after her, and at first Cora pretends to surrender, only to suddenly move fast and bring down 2 soldiers with just a few moves. It seems Cora has great fighting experience and doesn't have many issues going against a bunch of privates, using their own weapons to go against them and even throwing dirt to create a distraction. One by one, Cora defeats the soldiers with accurate shots or savage stabbing, and when a man almost shoots her, Aris kills the guy first. Then Marcus tries opening fire on her, but Cora quickly disarms him and jumps on him to shoot him straight in the head. Now Cora and Aris can team up to surround Faunus, but he's keeping Sam at gunpoint and they can't react. At that moment Jimmy shows up and Faunus orders him to kill the rebels, but as Jimmy picks up a gun, he looks at Sam and kills Faunus instead. Afterward Jimmy runs away and the townspeople arrive just in time to see Cora kill a soldier that was still alive. She announces she will help them fight, but first she'll have to gather more soldiers. In the past, Gunnar sold some of their harvest to the rebels, so he'll take her to the city to meet his contact. Before they leave, Hagen gives Cora the special gun he had found on her ship. Cora and Gunnar ride for a while and stop at night to make camp, so Cora uses the occasion to share her story. When she was 9, an Empire army led by Balisarius attacked her home planet, causing death and destruction in every corner. Her people had tried to fight, but this only made Balisarius get more violent. One evening, Cora managed to steal a gun only to be found by Balisarius, who came up close to taunt her. Cora was too young and couldn't bring herself to kill a person, so Balisarius killed her family and kidnapped her to take her under his wing. In the next few years, Cora was trained in Motherworld culture and became part of their army. The higher-ups encouraged their soldiers to find a lover so they would have something extra to fight for, and Cora lost hers during the war. Devastated, Cora fought so hard for revenge that at 18 she already became commander. All those years, Cora was just another pawn of their brainwashing, and she destroyed thousands of towns in the name of the same people that killed her family. The next day, Korra and Gunnar make it to the city and are upset to discover that bounty hunters have captured Gunnar's contact. Gunnar has no other way to get to the rebels, so Korra concludes they'll have to find the legendary General Titus first and then look for the rebels. Then the duo enters a tavern, where a disgusting alien thinks Gunnar is Korra's slave and tries to buy him, crossing the line into getting too handsy. Korra tries to tell him to leave and the guy gets aggressive, so she immediately overpowers him and throws him against a table. The alien quickly runs away while the mysterious Kai watches from the shadows. Suddenly Korra announces that she's looking for Titus, hoping anyone may have information. A small alien uses a human body to speak and informs Korra that Titus is fighting in the Colosseum on a planet called Pollux. This means they'll need a ship to fly there. At that moment the disgusting alien comes back with 3 bodyguards seeking revenge. A gunfight immediately starts and the people in the tavern run to hide while Korra exchanges shots with the bodyguards, running around to kill them one by one. Gunnar tries to fight the alien but his punches don't do much. Thankfully Korra knocks the alien down before he can kill Gunnar. Then she turns around to kill the last bodyguard and the alien tries to attack her from behind, but Kai cuts in and shoots him first. Afterward Kai empties the dead guy's pocket and offers his ship to take the duo to Pollux, accepting the little money they have to offer. When they take off, Kai tells them he knows of a warrior who may help them, so they agree to stop at a different planet first. Gunnar never left his world before and is amazed to see the ship flying through space. Meanwhile in the Empire's main ship, Noble is having a smoke by connecting the pipe directly to his body. A soldier comes to inform him that the bounty hunters have captured an informant, so Noble orders him to bring the guy to him and then goes back to his tentacle lover. Sometime later, Korra's group makes it to Noi Wodi and meets with rancher Hickman, who has a slave called Tarek. In the past, Tarek fought against the Empire too, but he was captured and made a slave. He would love to fight again, but he owes Hickman a lot of money for his freedom. At that moment Hickman offers a bet. If Tarek can tame a beast known as Benes then he's allowed to leave. If he can't then Korra and the guys must become his slaves too. They accept the bet and Tarek approaches the Benes, who violently shakes its body trying to get the chains off. Tarek kneels to show he means no harm and speaks in his first language, telling the Benes they're alike because they both were taken away from their homes to be put in chains. With friendly words, he manages to bond with the Benes and after sharing a gentle touch, Tarek frees the beast from its chains to then ride it. They go on a flight together but the Benes is having trouble getting used to having a rider, so it almost crashes against some rocks a couple of times. At one point Tarek falls off on the edge of a cliff, but he recovers quickly and makes a big jump to land on top of the Benes again. Now they're able to fly more smoothly and soon they return to the ranch with no issues. Tarek is allowed to leave with the group and a smug Hickman tries to ride the Benes too, but the creature throws him off and kills him with its claws. Korra is impressed by Tarek so Kai offers to take her to more warriors that may help. Moments later they arrive at Dagus and meet with Swordmistress Nemesis, who first needs to finish a personal mission. She goes after Harmata, a spider-like alien whose children have been killed by the Empire and who has kidnapped a human child seeking justice. Nemesis tries to reason with her, explaining she lost her kids to the Empire too, but Harmata refuses to listen and tries to attack. Using her swords, Nemesis dodges or blocks all of Harmata's legs and even cuts one to make her drop the kid. While Gunnar rescues the girl, Harmata manages to knock down Nemesis to then stab her arm. However, Nemes has mechanical gauntlets so she can still move and cut off another leg. Harmata knocks her down again then tries to kill Gunnar and the child, but Nemesis stabs her rear before using her gauntlets to light her blades on fire. As she slides down the floor, Nemesis strikes Harmata's spider body then stabs her humanoid torso with both swords at the same time. Afterward Nemesis joins the group and they take off again. Gunnar and Korra share another moment and she decides to tell her a bit more about herself. Since she was Belisarius' adoptive daughter, she lived a privileged life and soon became part of the royal guard. She was in charge of protecting the princess, who had the unique power of bringing beings back to life. To this day, Korra still feels guilty for not being able to save her the day of the attack. Sometime later, the group arrives at Pollux and visits the arena, where dozens of warriors die every day. General Titus is in a horrible state and they have to drag him inside to take a shower, but he protests during the whole process. Titus used to be a commander for the old king, but he fell into a deep depression when his army was ambushed and all his men were killed because he tried to surrender. At first he doesn't want to fight, but he changes his mind when Korra offers him the chance to get revenge. Meanwhile the bounty hunters bring the rebel contact to Noble, who promises to let him go in exchange for information. The guy explains the Blood Axe siblings are under the protection of King Levitica and Sharan, then Noble kills him. Moments later, Korra's team arrives at Sharan and meets with King Levitica, who agrees to arrange a meeting with the rebels. Soon the Blood Axe siblings arrive with their rebel army and Korra tells them about their fight, admitting that the chances of winning are low but also pointing out that her people have always fed them, so the least they can do is defend them. The brother Darien agrees to help and then approaches his army, offering a heartful speech to ask for volunteers. A few rebels gladly agree to go with him. Afterward the group leaves with their new allies, and Kai says he's been so inspired by them that he wants to help them fight. However, he still has some boxes to deliver, so Korra agrees to stop one last time before going home. Shortly after the group leaves, Noble and his men find Levitica and destroy his kingdom. Levitica refuses to cooperate, so Noble kills him with his cane. Then while the army finishes blowing up the area, Noble gets a message telling him where to find the rebels. A few hours later, the team arrives at Gondoval and helps Kai unload the cargo on a bridge. Korra watches him interact with the locals and senses something is wrong when suddenly, a hidden Empire spacecraft opens fire and brings down most of their ships. Then a bunch of robots ambushes the team and most of them are captured as Kai reveals his real intentions. He's always known Korra is a wanted ex-commander whose head would pay well, so he used her to gather a bunch of legendary wanted warriors to hand them over to the Empire for the reward. Soon Noble arrives with his men and takes Korra's gun while Kai pushes Gunner behind her, explaining he's just a farmer so they'll let him go if he kills Korra. Gunner pretends he's about to shoot her, but at the last second he frees her and turns around to shoot Kai instead. Korra immediately jumps on a guard and knocks him down to steal his gun, then she runs to hide as Noble's men open fire. She tries her best to fire back and blows up a box that causes a huge explosion, pushing all her enemies away. Gunner uses the chance to free all the other warriors and soon Nemesis is slashing people with her blades. Darien pushes a soldier off the bridge and orders his men to gather the few ships that manage to survive the attack. As the battle goes all out, Tarka, Titus, and Gunner manage to grab some guns and offer cover for Nemesis as she continues to stab her way through. At that moment, Noble orders his hidden spacecraft to come out, and it immediately opens fire on the rebel ships. Desperate to save his men, Darien grabs a metal bar and uses it to beat up soldiers as he makes his way up the bridge to then jump on the enemy ship. Unfortunately, he fails to stab the pilot, who dodges the bar and shoots at Darien. However, Darien tries again and this time manages to kill the enemy to stop the attack, but he also dies in the process. His body drops on the controls, causing the ship to slowly start falling toward the bridge. Furious, Korra leaves her hiding spot and runs through the bridge, shooting random soldiers as she makes her way toward Noble. At that moment the ship falls and destroys most of the bridge, but Noble manages to save himself by landing on a floating platform. Suddenly Korra appears behind him and a hand-to-hand fight begins with both Korra and Noble throwing punches without mercy. After exchanging a good amount of hits, Noble punches Korra off the platform, and she manages to hold onto some rope at the last second. When Noble disconnects the rope, Korra holds on with her hand then uses the rope as a whip to make Noble fall before climbing back up. The fight continues and Korra uses the rope to block Noble's cane, finally breaking and using a small piece to stab him in his leg. Noble tries to keep on fighting but he's weak now, so Korra breaks his arm and uses the cane to stab him in the chest before pushing him off the platform. Afterward, Tarek uses more rope to pull the platform over to the bridge and rescue Korra. The rest of the team has survived and they leave together to return to Velt, where they get ready to defend the farming community in the future. Nearby, Jimmy watches them while wearing a curious crown. Meanwhile, the enemy troops retrieve Noble's body but instead of healing him, they open his body to connect him to the Neuralink, revealing that he's a cyborg. As water surrounds his body, Noble's mind appears in front of Belisarius, who scolds Noble for his failure as he keeps hitting the ice under them with his cane. Belisarius orders Noble to capture Korra alive so he can kill her himself, then he finishes breaking the ice to send Noble's consciousness back to his body. The doctors don't sense any kind of brain activity, so they have to give him an extra strong shot to revive him, making him scream awake. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.